Yeah, we start with the drone, and the drone is of course not a good worker unit, because you lose a drone every time you make a building, and also the drone is very bad at cheesing, because the only building that can be placed anywhere on the map is a hatchery. Like, compare that to Terran. Terran can build everywhere. Protoss only needs a pylon, so the Zerg drone, because it cannot build anywhere, is very bad for cheesing, so it's not a good worker unit, I think. Next unit is the Zergling, and the Zergling, of course, is a very good unit in both games, but in my opinion, the SC2 Zergling is an S tier unit, but I think the SC1 Zergling is a bit weaker compared to Starcraft 2, and the reason is, the Starcraft 1 Zergling has higher DPS, it has a faster attack and higher DPS compared to Starcraft 2, but in Starcraft 1 the Zergling is a little bit larger and it has a much worse pathing. So when you wanna make a Zergling run by, or if you want to surround the enemy army, this is much more difficult in Starcraft 1. Like in Starcraft 2, you only have to A-move your Zerglings to the enemy army and you will get a perfect surround, but that's not possible in Starcraft 1. So Starcraft 1 movement in general is much more clunky, so that's of course very bad if you want to get a surround or if you want to run past buildings to get inside the base. And also note that in Starcraft 1 there are no queens and no inject. So Zerglings, they are very larva inefficient, they need a lot of larva, and in Starcraft 1 the only way to make larva is make additional hatcheries. So this also makes the Zergling quite more difficult to produce if you want to make a lot of them. So it is really good, but I don't think it's S tier. It's a bit weaker compared to Starcraft 2, I think. Next unit we have is the Hydralisk. And the Hydralisk is, in my opinion, better compared to Starcraft 2. Because in Starcraft 1, the Hydralisk is weaker compared to Starcraft 2. In SC1, the Hydralisk has only 80 HP, it has only 10 damage, and the damage is explosive, which means Hydralisk attack deals reduced damage to small targets, which is not the case in Starcraft 2. But the reason why Starcraft 1 Hydralisk is still the stronger unit in my opinion is, number one, you can make it earlier, so you don't need a lair. You can make the Hydralisk then only after having a spawning pool, so you get the Hydralisks much quicker. Also, the Starcraft 1 Hydralisk is a lot cheaper. It only costs 75 minerals and 25 gas, so 100 resources in total, which is cheap. And final reason, Starcraft 1 Hydralisk is very supply efficient. It only takes one supply. So of course, Starcraft 1 Hydralisk is not perfect. It is still vulnerable to like Psionic Storm or tanks, but just because you can get them so early and because they need very little supply and are cheap, they provide very good value. So cheap, and you can make a lot of them. This is really strong. I think Hydralisk is S tier in Starcraft 1. Next unit we have is the Overlord, and the Overlord in Starcraft 1 is a little bit different, because in Starcraft 1 every single Overlord is a detector. So that's good, of course. You don't need to morph Overseers, and it makes playing Cloaked unit almost impossible versus Zerg, because every Starcraft 1 Overlord is a detector. On the other hand, the upgrades for the Overlord are worse in Starcraft 1, because Starcraft 2 you can make a single Overlord into a transporter for paying 25-25, and that's not the case in Starcraft 1. In SC1 you have to make an upgrade which turns every Overlord into a transporter, but this upgrade costs 200, so it's very expensive. And also you still have to make in Starcraft 1 the upgrade which increases the speed of the Overlord. So the Overlord is just very bad at dropping. So drop play with Zerg is, I think, nearly impossible in Starcraft 1. So I would place the Overlord at C tier. Next unit we have is the Mutalisk. And the Mutalisk in Starcraft 1 is almost the same unit compared to SC2. I mean, it also has 120 HP. It also deals 9 damage with a little splash thing. But in Starcraft 1, I think that the Mutalisk is considerably stronger. And the main reason is in StarCraft 1, the Mutalisk is a small unit, and small units take only 50% damage from explosive attacks, and a lot of anti-air things are explosive. Like, for instance, the SC1 turret is explosive damage, the Dragoon is explosive damage, Goliath and Corsair are all explosive damage. So the StarCraft 1 Mutalisks only takes 50% damage from all these anti-air things, from a lot of anti-air things. So this, of course, makes the Mutalisk very strong. And of course, just as in StarCraft 2, you can make a nice micro like attack, pull back, and so. But it is very strong, and I think it's much stronger compared to StarCraft 2. Mainly because of its small size and reduced damage from explosive. Next unit we have is the Scourge. So the Scourge, it does not exist in StarCraft 2. It's like a flying baneling, so it's a flying suicide unit, but it has no splash. So it deals 110 damage to every flying unit, and it can be very helpful, but it's also very situational. Yeah? So, I mean, when you play Zerg and you face like carriers or battle cruisers or some amount of Terran science vessels, you can make the Scourge and wipe them out of the air quickly. It's just that Scourge, they do nothing else but besides attacking air units. They only have 25 HP, so often they get killed before they reach their target. They have no splash, and they are not cheap because for 25 minerals and 75 gas, you get 2 Scourges. So you need quite a lot of gas to produce these units. So it can be quite cost inefficient, but sometimes you just need them. It's very situational. They're good at what they're supposed to do, so I place them at B tier. Next unit we have is the Queen. So the Queen is a flying spellcaster, a bit like the Viper, but the spells are different. But the Queen, it has one spell, Parasite, which places a parasite on an enemy unit, and then the enemy unit gives you vision. It's good for scouting. Then it has Ensnare, which is an area of effect that reduces the movement and attack speed of enemy movements by 30% for, I think, 40 seconds or something. It's good, but the slow is not that strong, and there are just better spells. It also has a spell which is Spawn Broodling. With Spawn Broodling, you can you can one-shot every non-robotic ground unit. So, for example, you can spawn Broodling on an enemy Templar or at an enemy siege tank, and the siege tank will just die. But this spell is good in theory, but it's also expensive. It costs 150 energy. And so the Queen, I don't think that it's bad, but it just pales in comparison to the other spellcaster, because the Zerg also has another spellcaster, the Defiler, and the Defiler is just a lot better. So Queen as a unit, I don't think it's bad, but it's just a lot worse compared to the Defiler, so people rarely use it, so we will place it into C tier. Next we have is the Lurker, and the Lurker is okay in StarCraft 1. It is good. I think the Lurker is the only source of splash damage for Zerg in StarCraft 1. No other unit, I think, has splash. But I think that in StarCraft 1, the Lurker is a bit worse compared to StarCraft 2. Because StarCraft 1, the Lurker, it has less HP. It has only 125 HP. And what's even more important, that the StarCraft 1 Lurker only has a range of 7. And there's no upgrade. So in StarCraft 2, the Lurker has a range of 8, which is upgradable to 10, which is like siege range. It's larger than static defense. But in StarCraft 1, the Lurker never is going to have a range larger than static units, so you can't really use it as a siege unit. But it's still very good, especially versus Terran Bio. It can kill a bunch of Marines. I think it's very good, but I think it's a bit weaker compared to StarCraft 2. So A tier, I think. Next unit we have is the Defiler, and the Defiler, maybe you heard of it, is a little bit like the StarCraft 1 Infestor in the sense that it's a ground-based spellcaster, and it is very, very strong. It has 3 abilities. One ability is Consume, so you consume a friendly unit and it gives you back a little bit of your energy. that's also powerful because you can recharge the energy of the Defiler quickly, but you only should eat Zerglings. The other spell is Dark Swarm, and Dark Swarm is really an extremely strong spell because Dark Swarm, it creates a cloud, and every ground unit inside this cloud is invulnerable to range damage. And ground units inside the cloud will only take damage from melee attacks or from like splash attacks, like Psionic Storm or something, or the splash of a siege tank. But still, like invulnerability versus ranged attacks is insanely strong. It's especially used versus Terran because all Terran attacks are ranged. So people often just make like a Dark Swarm in proximity to an enemy siege tank or bunker, and then they just move their Zerg army to this bunker, and the Zerg army is invulnerable inside the Dark Swarm. So that's maybe even the strongest spell in the game. And additionally, the Dark Swarm spell requires no research. That's good. So the second, and there's another spell from the Defiler, which is Plague. So Plague is a spell that is an area of effect, and it reduces up to 250 HP over a time range of, I think, 40 seconds, but it doesn't kill the unit. So when you make, for example, Plague on an enemy siege tank, then the HP of the siege tank will slowly decay until the siege tank has only 1 point left, and it deals up to 250 damage, but it doesn't kill the unit. And this ability is also strong. The thing about this ability is that it's quite slow. So it does take time to reduce the hit points. So it's not very good in a front-up fight, because front-up fights in StarCraft are very fast. So if you make Plague on a unit and then just take the fight, the effect of the Plague will not be fully finished until the fight is finished. So Plague is just a little bit slow, so it's not that useful. But Defiler in general is an S tier unit. Next unit we have is the Devourer. Devourer is a very bad unit, an anti-air unit. It's quite tanky. It has 250 points and 2 armor, and it has an attack that deals 25 damage, and it also has a little bit of a splash effect. So when you hit an enemy air unit, then there will be a splash effect on nearby enemy units, and every unit affected by this effect will receive a negative armor buff. So it will receive the armor, it will reduce the armor by -1, but this unit is just not good because if you need anti-air, the Scourge or maybe the Hydralisk is just better. So, and the buff, the negative buff is also not that powerful. So yeah, I think no one uses it just because it does not high damage. And if you really need to take an air unit out, the Scourge is just the weapon of choice for you. Next thing we have the Ultralisk. Ultralisk is, I think, not a very good unit. I mean, compared to StarCraft 1, it is just weaker because compared to 2, it is weaker because in SC1, the Ultralisk has 400 HP and only attack of 20 with no splash damage. And it doesn't have the frenzied ability, so it actually can be mind controlled and slowed down. So, I mean, for such a late game unit, I mean, it is tanky with 400 points, granted, but the attack of 20 with no splash damage is just really, really weak. So it's just a tank and nothing else. I think it's situational. Sometimes maybe you need it to tank for Zerglings or for Hydralisks, but usually it's weak. And we have the Guardian. The Guardian is like the StarCraft 2, Brood Lord, but it's also weaker. So the Guardian has 150 HP and only an attack of 20, and it spawns no Broodlings, and it has a shorter range. It has a range of 8, while the SC2 Brood Lord has a range of 10. So it's just like a weaker Brood Lord. It does not spawn Broodlings, so it does not cause friendly fire, and it does not block the enemy movement. I think it's really weak. It's really weak at a fight. The only thing you can do is maybe place it upon a cliff, so you get free hits, but that's also very situational. It gets shot down very easy. Like the Goliath has the same range as a Guardian, so it doesn't even have that good range. So I don't think it's very strong. Alright, dude, so I hope this video was helpful and entertaining for you, and see you next time.